welcome to tonight's episode of Sit and Watch, where I, Joseph Richardson, recommend TV shows and movies from a non-pop culture and non-critic point of view in the hopes that you, the viewer, will watch and like as well. Bear in mind that I do not do negative reviews and that the TV shows and movies that I recommend in these episodes do not have to be blockbusters, critically acclaimed, or A-list movies. They just have to be entertaining. If you have seen the movie that I will recommend in this episode, please feel free to comment and share your view or views regarding it down below. Now let's begin. And for this episode, which is episode 3 of Sit and Watch, I recommend that you all watch They Clone Tyrone. They Clone Tyrone was released on July 14th, 2023 by Netflix. It is set in the fictional town of The Glen in what seems to be the late 90s or early 2000s. It stars John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, Tyrone Paris, and Peter Sutherland, with a cameo from David Alan Grier. It was written by Jarrell Taylor and Tony Rickmayer, directed by Jarrell Taylor. The cinematography was done by King Sin, and it was produced by Netflix. The score was done by Desmond Murray and Pierre Charles. And the story is this: a drug dealer, pimp, and one of his prostitutes living in a low-income neighborhood unearthed a diabolical government plot to experiment on the people of the community and communities such as it around the country. And now I will discuss the characters. The main protagonist, Fontaine, played by John Boyega, is a desensitized drug dealer. He seldom displays any signs of fear, sadness, or happiness. However, throughout the film, he continuously expresses bravery. He lives in constant peril and uncertainty, seeing as he dwells in the same neighborhood or town as his ops. He is not a wealthy man and dresses in ordinary clothing. The secondary protagonist is Slick Charles. Slick Charles is the caricature of a pimp. His jokes are corny, he speaks in an odd tone, and he has weird mannerisms. He cannot be taken seriously. However, he has a good sense of fashion. That seems to be a cross between the styles of the 1970s and 90s. He wears expensive jewelry and rocks an eccentric hairstyle that I actually like. He even carries a golden revolver. And the tertiary protagonist is Yo-Yo, played by Tyrone Paris. Yo-Yo is one of Slick Charles's prostitutes. She is attractive, funky, and very clever, and often plays the plaisante or female jester throughout the story. She's a flashy dresser, one-upping Slick Charles by many decimals. Her outfit is very unique. It looks like a depiction of a very stylized 1970s superhero costume. And now I'm going to talk about the main antagonists. Now it is the entire US government that is the antagonist within this story. However, there are two main agents whom are revealed within the movie, and it is those two main agents of whom I will be discussing next. Nixon, played by Kiefer Sutherland, is one of the visible villains. He is a high-ranking secret agent and is what you would expect from a villain, to be completely dastardly. I assumed he was named Nixon by the writers to reference President Nixon, because President Nixon was in the process of being impeached before he resigned because of the scandal that he was involved in the 1970s, thus making him a complicit element of the corruption of the US government. And the Nixon of the movie is a complicit element of the corruption of the US government as well. And finally, we have the lead geneticist of the operation. I will not reveal who this is because it will definitely spoil the movie. However, I will say that this character is very calculating and sinister. One of the reasons why I like They Clone Tyrone besides the fact that it has a totally original plot, is because I admire its cinematography, which was done by Ken Sin, who also did the cinematography for the movies Sorry to Bother You, Project Power, and See You Yesterday. The reason why I admire the cinematography is because Ken was able to successfully mimic the CRT TV images of the movie and shows from the late 1990s and early 2000s. In other words, They Clone Tyrone looks as if it could have been shot in the late 90s or early 2000s. The images of the film are very dark and grainy, which creates a continuous foreboding sensation for the viewer. Ken adds in some contrast by utilizing hints of neon pink, blue, and purple lighting throughout the scenes, which also gives the movie a hint of a synthwave feel and look. Now I'm going to talk about the score and the soundtrack. The score was composed by Desmond Murray and Pierre Charles. It's a fantastic mixture of smooth funk and what I call eerie soul, which further sets the atmosphere for each scene, creating a new dynamic of style for the film. Pierre Charles also worked on the scores for other movies such as Inventing Anna, East New York, and Story Ave. The movie's soundtrack was released on July 21st, 2023 and is comprised of the music of various artists from different decades. It contains songs such as Love Hangover by Diana Ross, Called Tyrone by Erykah Badu, and God's Wheel by Project Pat and Teddy Walton. And that's all for this episode. Go watch They Cloned Tyrone now on Netflix, and I'm sure that you will either like, love, or just find it intriguing. And if you are someone like myself who personally likes to own hard copies of the movies that they watch, you can order it on Blu-ray and DVD online. I typically have a hard copy version of the movies that I recommend, either DVD or Blu-ray, to show my viewers at the end of each video. Notwithstanding, the copy that I ordered had not yet arrived at the time of this recording. When it finally arrives, I'll make a post showing that I have it. Now, as my people in South Carolina would say, I'll see you later now.